This is Brett Snodgrass. Thank you for joining me on the Brett Snodgrass podcast. I have a special guest, Ari Galper, living in Australia, and he has written a new book, Unlock the Sales Game. He is basically the world's number one authority in trust-based selling. He has a new selling approach he's going to talk about that's all about trust and all about integrity. He says you're going to throw the old approaches to selling out the window. This is new. This is the modern day trust selling approach, and we're going to dive into that with his new book. He has worked in the selling industry with several hundreds of companies in the past 20 years, and he is an authority in selling. So every business organization has some sort of selling to it. So if you're a contractor or a real estate investor or any type of industry, you have selling, and this is really going to help you. So now I'm going to introduce you to Ari Galper. How you doing, Ari? Thanks for being on the show, man.
Pretty good. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I read your book this week, Unlock the Sales Game. So thank you so much for sending me that. And just an awesome book, Strategies, Techniques on Sales. I think there's some sort of sales in every organization, right? And, there's such a technique, but you take such an interesting approach to it. And you go through this trust-based selling approach, which is different than the old sales approach. We're going to dive into that today, but before we get into that, I want to ask you this. Who is Ari Galper?
Who is Ari Galper? Well, I specialize, as you know, in this niche called trust-based selling, which is the complete opposite of what people define selling as. So I'll warn you in advance, I'm going to drop some bombs today, and hopefully everyone's open to that. But I've been doing this for 20 years and impacted thousands of lives. So I'm looking forward to really shifting the mindset of your audience on how they view the process and potentially changing their whole trajectory around their business and their sales by thinking and acting differently in a way that's more based on integrity and authenticity.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's what I got just through your book is going off of trust and leaving with integrity, which sometimes in the sales arena, there's some gray areas in there, right? And, how do you have integrity but also sell a product? And you've been doing this, like you said, for a couple of decades now, and this is called trust-based selling. But I want to get to the old version of selling. So you got this new modern approach with integrity, trust, but what's the old version? I mean, what doesn't work anymore?
Well, let me walk you through a story that this exemplifies this perfectly of how this came about. About 20 years ago, I was I was a sales manager in a software company, and I managed about 18 reps underneath me. We launched the first online website tracking tools. Now it's called Google Analytics. But back then, actually, it cost money right out of the gate, new business, and a fast growing company. The big leads came across my desk first. So I got an inbound call from a website, picked the phone up, talked to this one guy. He was with a huge company, and they had so many websites that if I close this one sale, it will double the revenue of the business in one sale. That's how big it was. So he agrees to a conference call and a demo of our product. And they finally came Friday, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I went in the conference room with my CEO, a closed door behind me, big long conference table. In the middle of the table is the old school speaker phones, the three legs on it, Star Trek kind of looking black phones, the old days. And I hit the dial tone, dial the number, and he picks it up. He's like, "Hey, Ari, how's it going?" I said, "Good." And he says to me, "Ari, let us tell you who's with us today in the room." And I was like, "Oh, didn't mean there was to be someone else there." Next thing I hear is, "My name is John, I'm CEO." I was like, "Oh, this is good." "My name is Mike, I'm head of global IT." This is awesome. "My name is Julie, I'm head of marketing." Amazing. I mean, everybody on this call was a decision maker. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen today because they are all there in one place. Everyone I need to make the decision. So I introduced myself, explained what we do. We all logged into the live demo of our tool. I started showing this around, explaining how it works and showing an example on their own website that we use in advance to show them how it works. And they're seeing all their information on the screen for the first time. And I started hearing these noises on a phone call like, "Wow, this is great. This is amazing. They start asking me all kinds of questions. How does it work? How do we install it? Who are your clients? How does the tech work? And of course, I had all the answers. I was competent in my job. I was trained by the sales gurus and had the books at home, CDs in my car back then. I was building rapport with them. I was answering objections. I was doing everything I was taught to do by the gurus, and they were loving it. It was like there was so much chemistry on this phone call. It was Brett. It was kind of like a love fest on the phone. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, exactly. You're winning,
Like
right?
totally. There's no resistance. Like it was just flowing. My CEO's like, Ari, high five. And he's like, nice job in the corner of his room. He's like, yeah, yeah, baby. And I'm like, damn, this is so good. This is how sales should be. You know, the call comes to a close an hour later. My guy says to me, Ari, this is great. We love it. Look, give us a call a couple of weeks, follow up with us, and we'll move this thing forward.
Mm.
I'm like, oh, thank you, God. This is like the dream come true, you know? So I said my goodbyes. I took my hand and I reached for the speakerphone, hit the off button. As I'm reaching for the off button, by complete accident, now I said divine intervention, my thumb hit the mute button instead of the off button.
Mm.
They were like right next to each other. And I hit the wrong button by accident. A small click happened, and they thought I hung up the phone.
Mm.
And that's in that split second, a voice inside of me said, Ari, go to the dark side.
Mm.
Be a fly on the wall. Go where no one's ever gone before in the world of sales. You have nothing to lose. So I pulled my thumb back for a couple seconds. They started talking amongst themselves, thinking I had left the call.
Mm.
Now you may have read about this in the book, but what would you expect them to have said after a call like that? Not a trick question. What would you imagine they probably would have said after a call like that?
I mean, I've positive energy.
Yeah,
Everything
that's what
good.
you'd expect.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's how the call was.
right.
I mean, it was awesome. And let me share with you what I heard verbatim, word for word.
Mm.
It's why we're all here today. What they said was this. They said, we're not going to go with him. Keep using him for more information and make sure we shop someplace else cheaper.
Hmm.
Knife and heart twist. Brett, I was in a state of shock.
Wow.
I could not believe it. And I finally snapped out of it and I hit the off button and I looked at the wall and I said to myself, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
I did everything I was taught to do by the whole industry on how to sell, built rapport, objections, listening, everything. And the first big epiphany hit me. You can tell me if you agree with me in this or not. That somewhere along the way, it has become socially acceptable not to tell the truth to people who sell,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay to say things like, sounds good, send me information. We're definitely interested. Oh, wait, send us a what?
A
A
pamphlet,
proposal,
something.
pamphlet, brochure, without any intention of
True,
moving forward.
true.
And then I asked myself this question. Why were they afraid to tell me the truth?
Mm.
Why do they pull me through that game like that? Why not just tell me be authentic? And I realized what's going on there is there's this invisible river of subtle pressure that flows underneath every sales conversation you have with a potential prospect. And unless you're aware of it and alert to it and know how to remove it, then you'll always be fighting this chasing game and dysfunctional process of chasing what I call ghosts, people who show interest but never buy from you.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized if you can shift your thinking, your mindset away from the end goal of the sale to deep trust instead, to build this moment of vulnerability where they feel comfortable telling you the truth, then you craft the code, unlock the game, and you won't chase people anymore, but only you'll have people who are fit with you. And that became my whole unlock the game system over 20 years now. It's still going crazy with people all over the world adopting this, who are realizing that they conditioned and brainwashed the old way all these years.
Exactly. And you obviously talk a lot about strategies, and we want to dive into that, about this trust-based selling approach, unlocking the sales game. And we talked a little about the old sales approach, and I want to dive into that actual phone call, a little bit about what you did wrong. But in your book, you say that oftentimes the sale is lost at the beginning of the process, not the end. So maybe even relate it back to this particular call, like how is the sale lost at the beginning?
Well, I'll give you kind of a fun example. If someone calls your office tomorrow morning and you pick it up, the phone, and you hear, hi, my name is I'm with, we are a, what goes through your mind about 3 seconds?
Yeah, they're gonna pitch me something. Sell something. Are you
It's
interested? Do you have
over
life insurance?
at
Whatever.
hello.
Yeah,
Your guard goes right up. Now you got to fight the battle.
yeah.
It's over.
And I
I'm not
can't wait to
suggesting
hang
you
up. I
exactly.
might even hang up right at that moment.
It's possible, and I'm not suggesting that your folks watching now are all doing outbound calls, but I'll make the case today that majority of them are losing their sales not at the end of the process; they're losing it at the beginning. And here's why: because they didn't know how to build enough trust with someone from the beginning to have them open up to them
Hmm.
and tell them the truth of where they stand. Let me give you an example of this. So we have a set of principles behind what we do. We built our own, designed our own proprietary, what we call trust-based languaging that allows you to create the truth of people in the beginning, not the end. Here's a great scenario. Let's say you're on a first call with somebody over the phone and they're a good prospect, call is going well, good chemistry, could be a good fit, you're excited, call comes to an end. What do we normally say to someone at the end of a call like that? What's our typical thing that we say without any fancy new stuff that we say if it's a good fit, call comes well, we say things like what? How about we?
Set another appointment. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
How about we move things
Forward. Yeah.
forward? We're conditioned. We sense an opportunity to move things forward, right?
Hmm.
That's our
Hmm.
conditioning. But what happens if you attempt to move things forward and they aren't ready yet? What do you break with them right there at the beginning of your process?
The trust.
Correct. So, same scenario, our mindset and our language in our process, calls going well, call comes to a close, rather than saying, hey, how about we get together, next step, have a cup of coffee, whatever. What we say instead is this: we say, where do you think we should go from here?
Mm. Hmm. I'm writing this down. This is good.
I'll say it again. Where do you think we should go from here?
Mm.
Now, how do you suppose that changes the dynamic of the moment? What are they thinking right now when you say that to them?
That they value me, that they value my opinion on what I want and not what they want, I would say.
Exactly. You're
Mm-hmm.
shifting from you to them, the power
Mm-hmm.
shifting to them. And usually, when you say to somebody, where do you think we should go from here? They're usually in a state of shock. They can't believe
Yeah.
somebody would ask them what they want to do. It's unheard of. They've never heard of this before because they're so used to being taken down a sales process where the alarms go off and they know it's about the other person, not them.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say that to someone, they say, what about, I've got one more question. What about this? And you know what comes out? The truth.
Mm.
And that is your goal. The new goal is the truth, not the sale. That means letting go of what you've been holding on to after all these years that you're thinking your goal is a sale. And the irony of all this is when you let go of your own goal and you focus only on their world, you double your sales.
Mm. That's good. I like that. Oh, that's also awesome. So, in the conversation with where do you think we should go from here? Amazing. In your book, you talk about these three principles with the trust-based selling strategy. So, number one, you mentioned this already: let go of traditional sales goals and discover the truth about your client's situation. So, can you give us some examples on we talked about what not to say on that maybe initial phone call, but what are some things that we should say?
I'll give you an example of what I mean by getting to the truth of people. And what that means is having them feel comfortable being vulnerable, lowering their guard and opening up to you and telling you where they stand. So recently I had someone call my office. They got through my team, got to me, unscheduled call, which is unusual for me because everything's pretty scheduled. And I picked the phone up and I heard Mr. Galper. I said, yeah. And he says, my name is John Johnson. I'm changing the name. I'm with XYZ company. And look, we're looking to bring someone in to change our sales culture and our way we think in this new economy. We're looking at you and a few other people. We'd like to know, first of all, why should we go with you? Why are you the best? And give me your best sales pitch.
Right.
He says this to me because that's the game he plays in, right?
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
I took a deep breath. I lowered my voice. I'm a human being too. They're a huge company. And I got centered in my mindset. And I proceeded to say this to him. What I said was this. I said, well, isn't that interesting. And I slowed down and I paused and I said to him, over here at our company, we have a very similar process to you where we ask some questions, gather information to see if we're a good fit. And if we're a good fit, we decide where to go from there. And I said to him, would you be open to that? Next thing I heard on the phone, dead silence, not a word. I was like, oh man, did I lose him? That thing I heard this breath across the phone, like this breath of relief, like this sigh of relief. He lowers his shoulders. I can feel it. He becomes a human being again, out of the artificial game. He lowers his voice and he says to me, okay, what kind of questions do you have for me?
Oh, I love it.
Next thing I know, we discover one, he's not a decision maker. 2, he has no budget. And 3, he's just curious as to what I do. And off he went to get some of my videos on my website. I hung up the phone, and 5 minutes later, now what did my process just save me months of?
Yeah, headaches, conversations, appointments, selling him. Yeah,
chasing ghosts, energy.
Yes,
exactly. There's this drug in our bodies, and it's latent and triggered with inbound calls like that. You know what the drug is called? It's called hopium. You know the hopium drug. You get the hope. You're like, woohoo! I got the call. You're so excited. You're pumped up. You tell your partner, wife, hey, guess what? I got the call from that company. We're so woohoo! And you're like, yeah. And you follow up with them, and you get their voicemail. Like, what? Is this not? Then what do? Open up your computer, open your email, and you write this. You write, hi, Mike. I'm just writing you to what? To follow up. And I'm going to ask you and your listeners right now to take an oath with me, a verbal oath, not a legal one, but a verbal one, to never again, for the rest of your career after this call, to never use this phrase again. And here it comes. Never again use the phrase follow up ever again in your career as of today.
So I want to dive into that. So I'm in the real estate industry. And so you said not to use that phrase, but obviously in the real estate industry, we're calling private individuals. We buy houses from private individuals. And, you know, just like in any sales, they say the money is in the follow-up. So sometimes we don't.
When you call somebody and say, hi, I'm giving you a call to follow up, what are they thinking?
That you're chasing them.
He's trying to move the sale process forward. Yeah. This is like 1980s. Like, you remember the old ones, like touching base? Remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
Touching base, following up, all those classic ones. Set alarms off immediately. Let me share with you what we came up with that diffuses all this. It comes right from our program. And it's this. Here's what you say instead. I'm giving you a call to see if you have any feedback on our previous conversation, any feedback on our last meeting, any feedback on the last whatever. See, feedback's going which direction? Away from the sale, not towards the sale. See, the minute you create momentum to move them forward, it's over. You've broken trust with them right there, and they associate you with the negative salesperson stereotype who only cares about their own goal. But when you say to somebody, your feedback, watch what happens. They just start to open up and tell you the truth. Then you finally know where you stand.
Yeah, that's good. And people like to give their feedback.
They want to give feedback. Right. Probably we don't let them because we use this old languaging that connects us to the stereotype we're trying not to be.
Exactly. That's good. So principle number 2. So we talked about kind of just trying to discover the truth, right? And not to totally hit the goal of getting the sale. Discover the truth. And then obviously I want to dive into that a little bit more. So once you discover the truth, then the next step is getting their feedback, asking them what they want to do. And that's the next step, right?
It's more than that, because our mindset shift is doctor-patient relationship. They're the patient, you're the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
They got a problem. When you go see a doctor, what's the first thing he says to you? He says, "Where does it hurt?"
Mm.
And you say, "My shoulder right over here." He goes, "Let me take a look. Is it over here?" Oh, okay. Wow. I think we got to get an x-ray right away to really figure out what the problem here is so we can figure out how to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they don't try and build a relationship with you. They don't try to become your friend. They focus on the depth of your own problem so you understand it. And then what happens is you get an x-ray. He throws the x-ray on the screen. He says, "See that little black spot right there?
Mm-hmm.
That's your problem."
Mm.
And you go, "Oh, right. Okay." Then you write your prescription and you walk out the door, but you go one more place before you go to your car. You know where you go? Is your last stop before you go to your car? You go to the front desk and you pay. You pay the doctor not to solve your problem, but you pay them for clarity on the problem. And you feel relieved because of that.
Yeah.
So in our model, we don't write prescriptions. We don't provide solutions until we diagnose the problem. We unpack it. It's called Culling Down the Iceberg. It's part of my new book coming out called The One Call Sale, where I teach people how to go below the iceberg, where down below their own issue, where they feel that you understand them better than they understand themselves. That's what deep trust is. You know, when you meet someone at a party and you say to yourself, "Man, she just gets me. Just understands me." That's what real trust is. And that requires a new skill, a new awareness that we've never been taught before, because we're so used to this old voices back here saying, "They're qualified, move it forward, keep going, don't give up, don't be a wimp, get back in there, keep going."
Right.
That's the old sales manager who's got your voice, who's still pushing you to move forward. That's where you're breaking all those opportunities.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Principle number 2, you talk about stop defending yourself. So again, the old sales system is how do we overcome objections? What's our response to those objections? We get defensive when we don't feel like someone likes what we're selling. So you talk about that. Stop defending yourself.
Yeah. So we've been taught over the years by the sales gurus to always, when you get an objection, your job is to do what? Overcome it, right? But what happens if you overcome an objection and what they're telling you is true? What do you break with them instantly the minute you try and fight that battle?
Yeah, the trust.
Trust.
Yeah.
It's over. You've lost it. So that all that process don't work anymore. What you do instead is this. You don't defend yourself and overcome it. What you do instead is you diffuse it. You take the pressure out and re-engage again. Let me give you an example. Let's say someone says to you, "Brett, I want to work with you, but your fee is too high. Your price is too high." This is a classic one. Everyone gets this typically in their business. I've got these all mapped out with every response possible based on trust. So if someone says your price is too high, what do you know? This is not a trick question. Well, what if someone said to you? What if someone said that to you? How would you respond to that? Pre-Ari. If someone said, "Hey, your fee's too high," what would you say?
I would say, well, what were you expecting the fee to be?
And I would say lower than what you're asking me right now. Okay, so hold on right now. So this is great. Thank you, Brett, for this role play. So what we're trained to do is fight or flight. Okay, flight is where you back down and you say, "Okay, what price what are you thinking about?" And then now it starts going down.
Yeah.
Now fight is defending it and saying, "Hey, we're worth it. You buy what you get. Hey, we're the best."
Yeah.
Hey, see, that's how we've been trained to be binary. And that's what's the problem. We're breaking all this opportunity because we're on this edge. You come in the middle. And if someone says to you, your price is too high, here's how we handle it based upon our approach. Our goal is to diffuse. So your fee is too high, we say, "You're absolutely right." And here's the operative word. It can be perceived as high. You're right about that. No doubt about that, unless you've had a chance to actually use this, try it, get a result to show yourself that it's worth doing it. You're right. On the outside in, it appears that way. Pause. Then I'd say, would you be open to looking at this from a different perspective? We can build a business case for this that makes sense for you. Would you be open to that? So I just diffused, but I re-engage again without breaking the relationship and the trust.
Yeah. I love it. That's awesome. No, that's good. And all this, guys, again, is in Unlock the Sales Game from Ari, and you can check this out too. Where can they get this book at, Ari?
Unlockthegame.com, just like it sounds. You can grab a copy there, and on your way out, there's an opportunity there to click a button to have a one-on-one chat with me, complimentary, because you got my book. We can kind of do a little X-ray on your own sales process and figure out why you're losing people and why you're chasing ghosts.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, before we wrap up the show, we got a few more minutes too. I just want to kind of put that in there so people know where to get the book at unlockthegame.com. So principle number 3, you've talked about this several times though, is it's the chasing. It's the follow up. It's chasing clients, right? So like we have a CRM system, bunch of clients, and we're constantly chasing and following up and all that stuff. But you say in the chasing game, chasing clients is not good. So talk to us about this. What do you do instead of chasing?
So we've been programmed to believe that after the first conversation with someone, there should be multiple steps after that to get them on the hook and make the sale. The reason why we're forced to do that is because we don't know how to build enough trust with them on the first conversation. That's my one call sales system I developed, where if you can build trust with somebody in one single conversation at a deep level, then on that call, either they're onboarding or they're disengaging. There is no next steps. There is no follow-up. And you won't get things like, hey, this sounds good. Let me think about this. Oh, let me talk to my wife about that one. Let me contemplate that. Oh, let me digest that. Let me think about this. I don't make decisions so quickly. I got to think. All those excuses and reasons are code for saying, I don't trust you yet. We go, okay, great. I'll call you next week. And off we go, following up as if like we're just sleepwalking down this horrible process where we just degrade our humanity by doing that. It's just horrible.
Oh, no, that's good. So it's getting the language right to go deeper on that conversation, to build more trust. And because a lot of times you are right. Our goal is almost just to get to the next appointment. Just, hey, let me talk to you a little bit so I get my little touch so I can get to the next follow up a week later, right? That's like, and that's not the goal.
If you have to go to a second step, then guess who messed it up? See, think about it. They got a problem. You got a solution. Straight line of sight. No friction. What do? We jump in the middle and we just fumble the ball. Hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you. Hey, so anyways, see, we're taught to build rapport with people, build relationships with them so they can like us, know us, then they'll buy from us. Well, guess what? I'm going to drop a bomb right now. Your goal is not to build a relationship with someone pre-sale. You build it with them after they're a client, not before they're a client, because we discovered that relationship building and trust building are mutually exclusive. They don't want to become your friend. They know it's fake anyways.
Yeah.
They know it's the whole, hey, how's it go? They know the game's, it's over. What they really are asking themselves is this: do I trust you? And you build trust with someone by diagnosing their problem immediately with empathy and bedside manner like a doctor would. And you go down the iceberg with them and you take them down a roadmap process where they feel like, wow, I finally found somebody who's not trying to write me a prescription before understanding me. And I got all this thinking, by the way, from my son, Toby. When he was born, he had Down syndrome. We discovered he had Down syndrome. I wrote a book about him called Lessons from Toby. And if you know someone who has Down syndrome, you know they're beautiful people. They have no hidden agenda. They're transparent. They're loving. And I realized if we can let go of all the armor we carry around us every day in the sales process, just be authentic and focus only on their world, not ours, like he does every day, then you have instant trust with people. And they can tell that you care about them. And that's what we're missing right now in the world of business and sales, is that people feel that you care about them.
I love that. And it's also really backwards because you said you build the relationship after the sale, which typically people they don't want any relationship after the sale because they've already got the sale, right? And that's the old approach. And I love that after the sale, that's when you build the relationship with them. That's awesome.
Not before.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much. One last question before we wrap up the show. So you talked in your book about kind of scripts, right? Canned scripts. We have scripts in our business on what to say, but you said that's garbage too. So talk about that.
Throw them out. Because the minute you have scripts, what happens is people get robotic and they get they sort of forget it's a conversation. And the other person feels that from you a mile away. They can tell they're just one more widget in the system. Mm-hmm. I'm not suggesting don't give your people structure and processes and languaging. I'm just saying provide them with the languaging that creates the conversation around the person's problem. And then give them a framework of where to take the person next when the time is right. And it'll all be natural, not artificial and scripted. Mm-hmm. Scripting feels scripted. And as long as you give them that framework, then they won't get off track.
Love that. That's awesome. Well, Ari, thank you so much for being on the Brett Snodgrass podcast today. I really appreciate it. Guys, go check out, again, Unlock the Sales Game and Ari's new book, the 1 minute call, right? And that's the one call sale will be coming out later on this year. Awesome. So check that out.
But you can access it through us now if you want to give us a call. We can talk about it. Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, check out Ari's website again, unlockthegame.com, and you can get all that information. Ari, I always end every podcast with a little fire round, so here is yours today. Number 1, best book that you've read recently.
80/20 Sales and Marketing by Perry Marshall.
Yeah, that's good. Perry was on the podcast too a few weeks ago, so awesome book, awesome guy. All right, number 2, what are you worst at?
Mechanically doing anything with my hands. Even though I'm about to finish my restoration of an old classic car I got. It's almost done this week. So it's been 9 months. I haven't lifted a wrench yet.
That's awesome. All right, sounds good. Last one. What is your biggest adventure?
Probably going to the Middle East on my own when I was a student and spent a year abroad and just experiencing a different world.
Wow, that is so cool.
And of course, my life in Australia has also been an adventure. Been here for 20 years. Met my wife on a dating site pre-swiping, and here I am living in Sydney. But I still half of my clients in the U.S. and a whole bunch are over here, and it still works virtually somehow.
That's awesome. Virtual world today. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today, Ari. Awesome job with the book. We'll check out your new book as well. Maybe we'll have you back on when that comes out. And we'll put all this in our show notes, guys, on the Brett Snodgrass channel on YouTube. So check that out. Thanks, Ari.
Great.
God bless you, brother.
Thanks, Brett. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for checking out the Brett Snodgrass channel. If you like this video, please slam on that like button. And if you really like it, then subscribe to our channel here. And remember to leave us a comment below, and I'm going to try my hardest to reply to all the comments. Thank you guys so much. This is why I do what I do. Every single week, I come out with content that focuses on success, freedom, and living out your purpose. Thank you guys so much. See you next time.